Good evening and welcome to the April 25th, 2017 school committee meeting. We're happy to have everyone here. Nice to have so many people joining us this evening. To begin, we'd like to start with some announcements, and before we get into that into too much depth, I'd like to publicly thank Peter Gunn for filling in for me the last couple of meetings and doing an awful lot of work for all of us. And I just really appreciate him stepping in for me because I had to be absent due to a family concern. So I just want to thank you, Peter, for filling in for me very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'd also like to announce that this meeting is being recorded by East Hampton Media. East Hampton Media channels 191, 192, and 193 is looking for volunteers. If anyone is interested in helping to tape city government meetings, please contact Kathy Lynch at 413-203-1360. And I'd also like to thank Tim Riley for taping tonight's production for us. Superintendent Follansby, do you have some announcements for us?
Yes, I do. The next regular school committee meetings are May 9th and 23rd, June 13th and 27th. Strengthening Families 7-week program begins April 27th at Whitebrook Middle School. There's a half day of school on Friday, May 5th due to teacher professional development. There is no school on Monday, May 29th due to Memorial Day. And currently the last day of school is scheduled for Monday, June 26th, which is a half day of school for students. For community members or others who do not have children in our schools and want to receive the superintendent update, which occurs every Monday, please visit our website at www.epsd.us and click to subscribe under latest superintendent update. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And Peter, do we have any gifts to report?
We do not. I apologize. No, we do not.
And do you have any update on, any comment on correspondence?
So just so that people know, we have received a lot of correspondence and we appreciate the giving. As I've tried to articulate in our two previous meetings, the privacy rights of students is paramount for us, and the due process rights of the employees of the East Hampton Public School District is also paramount for us. And so we will review the letters with counsel to be sure that we do not read something into the public record that should not be read there. It's my sense that some of what we have received we process internally, and at a point that it is appropriate for it to be shared with the public, it would be. I might be wrong, but in this case, given the stakes involved, and if I am wrong, it would come out later that I was. It's my sense that we will hold the letters that we have received until we can do further due diligence with them before we read them this evening, or at any subsequent meeting. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. And do we have any gifts to report?
No.
No gifts this evening. Okay, next on our agenda is an update from our student representative on our activities happening at the high school. And tonight we have Stephanie Martinez with us. We're happy to have you join us. And Stephanie is a senior at East Hampton High School, and she is the secretary of the Student Council.
So I would just like to update on some of the events that Student Council will be holding in the upcoming dates. We have the community barbecue, which we invite important members of the community that we want to thank for helping us get to the point where we are. We also have the senior picnic for the final goodbye to the seniors. And we also have the Stop Hunger Now fundraiser, where we help pack meals and send them out to developing countries.
Nice. And when will that be happening, Stephanie?
That will be happening sometime in May. Not sure yet. Haven't defined the date yet, but it will be happening at EHS for sure.
Nice. That's excellent. And I understand you have a prom coming up.
We do. May 5th.
May 5th.
Yep.
And that's going to be at
The log cabin.
the log cabin. So all parents can like hover and take pictures. And
Oh yeah. Seniors will be meeting at Daly Fields around 5:15 to be taking group pictures.
take pictures.
Yeah.
Nice. Very exciting. Exciting times coming up. Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving on to the public speak portion of our meeting. And before we begin the public speak portion, I first of all want to say that we are always pleased to hear from anyone in the community who would like to speak to us. We're happy to have you here, and we'd love to hear from you. But I am going to share with you a few ground rules for public speak for efficiency purposes, and all sorts of other reasons. So if anyone is interested in coming forward to speak to us, we ask that you come to the podium. We'd like you to state your name and where you're from. We'd also like you to direct your comments to the committee, speak to the committee as opposed to other people in the room. We'd also ask that you please not read any anonymous letters or present information from anonymous sources. We also ask that you please not allude to information that you do not personally know to be true and factual. And we're also asking that you refrain from any remark that violates a student's right to privacy or an employee's right to due process. I would need to stop anyone from saying anything that would violate those privacy laws. I'm also going to ask that only residents of East Hampton speak at this time, and ask that we limit comments to 2 minutes. And if time allows, after everyone else has spoken, we'll hear from any non-residents that wish to address the committee. I'd also like to let you know that we don't typically respond to or discuss matters that are brought to our attention during public speak time. However, all of the information that is shared will be carefully reviewed and considered. If you have information that you'd like to share with the committee and you're not comfortable sharing it during the public speak time, we encourage you to get in touch with any one of us on the committee, any member of the committee. You are more than welcome to speak to us individually at any other time. As I mentioned, we'll be reviewing every concern brought to us. We will try to establish the facts to the best of our ability, and we want to be sure that all actions are consistent with the policies and procedures of the East Hampton School District and the laws of the Commonwealth. With that being said, I'd like
Actually, could I ask, with the permission of the committee, for one comment and one suggested revision to that? The comment that I would make is that and I think anyone who was here at the last 2 meetings knows that I struggled to see to it that those guidelines be followed, and so I want to simply echo what the chair has said tonight and urge everyone in the room not only to adhere to those, but if someone should get up to speak with whom you disagree, that you show as much respect to their right to speak freely to this committee as anyone else. It's not just the views that you agree with that deserve to be heard without comment. Everyone's remarks need to be heard. I would ask permission with the committee that we amend the guidelines to include any resident of East Hampton or anyone whose child is educated in the East Hampton School
yes.
District,
Yes.
even if they reside in another community, so that families of choice students. Would that be
Thank
fine?
I
you.
apologize. I
That's
apologize.
just
That
where I
is
was
absolutely
coming up.
appropriate. And yes, I apologize for not clarifying that point. So absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Okay, with all of that understood, would anyone like to come to the podium and speak to us at this time?
Lisa Doney. I live on Cottage Street, one of the few houses left there. We are very fortunate to have a level 1 high school in our community. We have amazing teachers who passionately care about the future of all our children. Our school is not unique in the problems we are facing recently. Across our nation, schools and workplaces are trying to deal with the same issues. As parents and guardians, it is our responsibility to ensure that we send respectful, tolerant, and accepting children to school. I feel it is very damaging and upsetting to students and school staff to have weekly reports in the news with the retelling of the same incidents. It is essential that we move forward and work together, parents, guardians, community, and school. We need to stop blaming and replace it with kindness and understanding. Unfortunately and sadly, incidents will arise from time to time, and we need to trust our school as they have no tolerance for racism and violence. I support and thank Mr. Burke, teachers, and school staff for providing my child with an exceptional education and reinforcing the morals and values taught at home. And I'd just like to add to this that you may have seen that I was quoted in the paper, and it was a little different than what I actually said. I had hoped that by calling the paper that they would shine some light of the wonderful school that we have. And it's very troubling for my daughter. She is having trouble with schoolwork, having trouble with sleeping. I think we need to move on from this, stop putting it in the paper. And Mr. Burke has come up with some ideas. We need to start doing this. And I think it's accelerating things by having it in the paper every day, or every week, I should say, at least every week. And it's just very upsetting. It's very upsetting to teachers, to the students, and I hope no one reads into this that I'm minimizing by any way what happened. Racism and violence should never be part of our school. We need peace, but we also need to move on.
Very much. Thank you. Would anyone else like to come and speak to the committee? Surely there'd be someone after that long list of guidelines. No one else at this time? Okay.
Hi, my name is Noreen Nardi. I live on Willow Circle here in East Hampton, and I have been working hard with Ms. Follansby and some of the school committee members to try to move on from this incident or from the incidences over the last several months. And I think nobody could agree more that we really do need to move forward. That being said, I don't think it would be at this point if the problems were addressed properly. And again, there was an incident yesterday. I don't need to get into it. And I was really hoping that today, when the student body got into school, the incident would be addressed. Not who was involved or how they were punished, but just telling the student body an incident happened and this is not okay. And it's not okay because it is offensive to other people and why it's offensive. And I think that is what we really are asking to happen. There has to be communication, and teachers, administrators, and students all have to be on the same page and not throw each other under the bus. We just have to communicate, and hiding it and not shining light on this, that's where the problem started and still exists. Thank you.
Thank you, Noreen.
Hello, everybody. I'm Natalie Poirier, 129 Parsons Street, and I was going to not say anything because I feel like I've talked so much, but I really appreciate everybody here, and I think it's important to speak. It's very clear that we have reached out, or we've been asked by outside areas what is going on, and I agree with what Noreen's saying. I agree with a lot of what's happening here is that we're trying to get to the communication part, and I see that it's a wonderful school, and I think anybody who has read or listened or is asking for any documents that the school committee has is going to find out a lot of positives and some things that haven't been addressed. And I think that we do need, and we're working towards that. The school committee has been amazing, along with Mrs. Follansby, to talk about the ways to communicate. And I think we have great staff inside our wonderful walls of East Hampton that I've been lucky to be in most of the schools that can help facilitate this. But it is true, we need to put things out in the light. There was an incident yesterday, and I'm sorry, but that has to go into the press. That absolutely has to be shared. It is absolutely unfair. None of us can understand what some kids experience opposed to others because we have a racial issue happening, regardless if it's a large group or a small group. It's real. It's happening in our school. And the more that we don't shed light and we don't come together and talk about it, the more empowered this happens. And so it's unfortunate that this is being a popularity contest or being attacked because that's not at all the goal. I am welcome and open to talking to anybody at any time, anybody. And I think that's important, to keep the communication lines open and not to attack. I think it's beautiful that we all have a right and ways to speak. I think it's important. I appreciate being heard. I hope that our experience is not trying to take down a town. What we're trying to do is say, this is not our town. This is not our school. These are not our teachers. This is a situation that just needs to be faced, dealt with, talked about, experienced, and then we can all learn. I think there are wonderful ideas of the 3-year plan, and I think we are going to move forward. But we have to get real. We cannot just move on. It's hard to hear that and to not get upset. I'm sorry. I have a son at home that's having a hard time also. I have a daughter that's having a hard time. But we're all having a hard time. And we have to face it. This is a bigger issue, and I think East Hampton can be a satellite community to show how in our nation we handle it. So let's stand up. We can't just push this away. I won't be part of that. And I won't be part of anybody attacking anyone. That is not the point. We get to the issues, we talk about it, and then we educate and teach, because most importantly, I appreciate what people are saying, and I'd love to learn why we have this hate and how to address it, how to learn from it, how to talk about it, because it's real. We know that this is something that happens. But I think my goal today was to come with compassion, consideration, and character. And I think that we all have the ability to do that. All of us. Maybe laws are not being broken, maybe some are, but it's 2017, and I believe everybody here can face the situation head on. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Anyone else? Okay. I'd just like to reiterate, if anyone else would like to speak to us privately or at another time, we'd love to have you come to us at any point. We always welcome any comments, suggestions, thoughts anyone might have. We appreciate them.
Can I make a second note?
Sure.
Again? In the last two meetings, and I mean this sincerely, is not as a ploy to have you stay for what you may think of as some more routine matters, and certainly some of the matters that we're going to address are routine. But in each of the last meetings, there have been issues on the agenda that are relevant to the concerns that have been addressed in public speak, and because of some uncertainty about perhaps how we proceed, some folks, I think, only realized later. So I would ask, because it's often the case that people depart after public speak, and that's fine. We're all busy and have plenty of things to do, places to be, and people to care for. But if you are interested, I do think as you look down the agenda, you'll see that there are opportunities at this meeting where you'll hear the committee deliberating matters that are relevant to the concerns that have been brought up in the last two meetings and tonight's meeting. So I would invite people respectfully, if they can, to stay.
Okay. Thank you very much. The next two presentations that were listed on the agenda will not be taking place tonight for various reasons. So we are going to move right on to our subcommittee reports. And I do not believe the Finance Subcommittee has met, but Cynthia?
No, we have not
You have
met.
met. Okay, how about the Policy Review Subcommittee?
We'll be meeting tonight, immediately after this.
Tonight. Okay, very good. Okay, and a Collaborative for Educational Services update.
The only collaborative update I have right now is that the districts are in the process of doing their evaluation for Mr. Deal, and that will be completed by the end of this month, and then that evaluation will be part of an update.
Okay, and next we have our education policy update. Marissa.
Sure. The update I'd like to make for this week is that on Thursday of this week, the 27th at 6 p.m. at the high school, we'll be hosting a forum, an event, an educational event about the foundation budget, which is the state formula that is used to determine how much state money gets allocated to each public school district. And so doesn't sound like the most exciting thing, but really is highly shaping of the financial health of the local public school districts. And so we'll have an opportunity to learn about how the foundation budget works. It was first calculated in 1993 and has not been updated since. And so it doesn't quite match the realities of 21st century education today. So we'll learn about the foundation budget, learn about some legislation that is seeking to update the budget, and hopefully find some ways to organize and mobilize so that way we can really see our legislators advocating for a fairer distribution of state resources.
And Marissa, this is about, like, this ties into the charter school formula and right, like in our reimbursements from, or our not full reimbursements from students who go to charter schools, correct? This is the same formula issue.
You know, honestly, I am not quite sure exactly
Okay.
the relationship between the charter school formula and the foundation budget formula, but one of the things that is really significant is that the foundation budget does not in any way account for charter school losses to public school districts, because it was calculated before charter schools were really an extant issue.
Right.
Or, yeah.
So yeah, we should go.
I feel like I continue to do this, but if I could ask the committee for one more indulgence, I wanted to add on the education policy update that I am pleased and proud, and this is a self-interested statement at one level, but it's also to all the young people in this room, that over the course of the last 24 hours I was in Washington, D.C., and a group of young students, some of whom live in East Hampton, others in Western Mass, others from around the country, met with the Massachusetts delegation, the education liaison in Representative Neal's office, the education liaison in Senator Warren's office, and with Senator Markey, who spent 20 minutes with the students talking about the budget, including they're making the case for restoring the cuts that have been proposed in the initial skinny budget that many of us have heard, and we know that the federal budget plays a small role, but a significant role in the funding and the resources that were available. So those of you who are exercising your right to free speech here, I can tell you from direct personal experience that members of Congress appreciate it when you make a phone call or write a letter or share your views about how we spend our precious resources in this community. And I think it was great that these students took time out of a very hectic schedule that they were involved in to spend time with each of those three offices advocating for the restoration of education funding.
Thank you very much. Anything else to add to the education policy update? Okay. Next on the agenda is continued discussions on our immigration resolution. And Marissa has put together a document.
Yes, did you
Would
want
you
me
like
to
to
read this?
share
or
that?
share this? Sure, absolutely.
So everyone could hear what we're talking about here?
Great. Yeah, so first I want to acknowledge that Casey did the good work of finding a model document from the Amherst Public School District of a resolution that they had passed recently. And I got in touch with the Amherst School Committee and asked for their permission to borrow the language and sort of model our policy after theirs. And they said, gladly, of course, we would love to see East Hampton's leadership on this issue. So I want to acknowledge the Amherst Committee as well for offering their language to us. So I'll read this resolution, and then we can discuss as a committee, and then I'd like to ultimately have the policy subcommittee really take a careful look at this resolution and the protocol that it would put in place, and look at it in relationship to the existing policies that might be relevant, and we can talk to our school attorney as well. So, the preamble. The East Hampton School Committee is committed to the success of every student in each of our schools. The mission of East Hampton Public Schools includes providing an excellent education for all students and providing the resources required so that all members of the school community, students, parents, teachers, administrators, and staff, can work together to produce a learning environment that meets each student's needs. The committee believes that in order to produce this learning environment, it is essential that our schools are safe and inviting for all students and their families. In accordance with our non-discrimination policy, the district does not tolerate any form of discrimination, harassment, or bullying. This safe, inviting, and discrimination-free environment would be threatened by the presence of Immigration and Naturalization Service employees who come on district property for the purposes of removing students or their family members, or obtaining information about students and their families. Thereby, the resolution is 1, existing district practice requires all visitors to state the reason for their visit and be cleared for entry into a space with students. Consistent with that practice, any Immigration and Customs Enforcement employee intending to enter any East Hampton Public Schools property must first notify the superintendent and the district's general counsel of its intention in person with adequate notice and copies of a warrant signed by a judge or magistrate, so the superintendent and general counsel can take steps to provide for the emotional and physical safety of its students and staff. 2, the superintendent and/or general counsel are authorized to ask for the ICE agent's credentials, ask the agent the reason for requesting access, and ask the agent what evidence of reasonable suspicion exists via a warrant. If this information is not all provided, the superintendent or general counsel will not allow access of ICE into the school setting. 3, ICE personnel will be refused entry to district property unless the superintendent and district counsel are provided with a warrant signed by a judge or magistrate specifically authorizing ICE entry onto the property. 4, East Hampton Public School staff shall not ask about any student's immigration status or that of any student's family members, and pursuant to FERPA shall not disclose without parental consent the immigration status of any student. 5, East Hampton Public School staff will not refer students or families to ICE if they inadvertently or intentionally disclose their immigration status. 6, the school committee and superintendent shall provide written guidelines in service of this resolution to be kept in each of the district school buildings. 7, the superintendent shall provide training for teachers, staff, and administration on how to respond to ICE personnel who are requesting information about students and families or who are attempting to enter district property in accordance with the guidelines. And 8, the policy subcommittee of the East Hampton School Committee is charged with reviewing existing district policies regarding immigration and making any recommendations for policies or changes to existing policies as are warranted.
Thank you very much. So we will be turning it over to the policy subcommittee for making any revisions to existing policies and or potentially creating a new policy if needed.
Right.
To reflect this position. Are there any other comments from the committee? I know Cindy mentioned we have an education law update that could be helpful to the process of reviewing
Okay, great.
I have another one.
our policies in light of the laws.
Okay.
Basically, these recommendations are being made.
Are these Massachusetts recommendations or?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it's Massachusetts state law.
Okay, excellent.
Yep. It's just a good resource as we're shaping our own policies.
So we won't be able to put this on the agenda for tonight, but for our next policy meeting, we'll take this up and review these documents.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments?
I would say-
Questions?
If there are no other comments, I know sometimes when you're reading through something quickly, people may not hear, but I think it's important, particularly as we move into the next item on the agenda, to point out that this, the initiative to do this was brought to us by a fellow committee member prior to any of the events that we've been discussing at the last 2 meetings. And it's an example of where I think in the context of what's going on tonight, this might be looked at as being reactive. And I would want to emphasize for everyone here, this is another example of where this committee, and I believe this district, has been proactive for a considerable period of time. That doesn't mean that we have been knowledgeable about everything or that we have reacted to everything and been proactive to everything. But this is a concrete example of an initiative taken by one of my colleagues, and I think it was well received by the committee, and it's another example of where we are attempting to stay out in front of concerns that are important to people in the community.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is East Hampton High School concerns. To start off, what I'd like to do is introduce, or ask Nancy to introduce, we have someone who's here to speak with us tonight to share some information, Sapphire DeYoung. And Nancy, do you want to introduce further?
I'd
Sapphire.
be pleased to do that. So shortly after the events that brought us all here together, I believe it was we contacted the Collaborative for Educational Services in Northampton. We've worked with them in many different ways to support us in professional development and many other ways as well. And contacted them because we had heard that they had a group who was very skillful at working with school districts in terms of examining equity and fairness in a school district, and that they had consultants who would be available for us to work with. So we met with Dr. DeYoung and a few of her colleagues on April 7th, I believe it was, to plan out our next steps. And Dr. DeYoung is here this evening, and Dr. DeYoung, I'd invite you to come to the podium. And what we'd like Dr. DeYoung to do is just to talk about, our meetings, what we've done to date, and what the long-range plans are for working with the collaborative.
Thank you. Hello, good evening. My name is Dr. Sapphire DeYoung. Sapphire is actually a nickname, so I technically am Dr. Carrie DeYoung. So I have a doctorate in education from UMass Amherst, so I'm legit. I'm also a faculty member in the Commonwealth Honors College at UMass Amherst. and have been looking at issues of equity in education throughout my career. I work with a diverse team of consultants through the collaborative that brings a range of skills and experience that are effective in addressing school culture issues. I want to share a little bit about the plan that we're working on here. We're just in the very first phase. In the first phase, what we need to do is listen to people. Listen deeply to what's going on. What are the concerns that people are bringing? What are the challenges that people are facing? And what are the ideas that people have? So we're looking for both what are the challenges and ideas, and also looking for strengths. What are the strengths that already exist among the student body, for example? What are the strengths that already exist among the teaching staff? Let's see, April 12th and 13th, we spent 2 days listening to over 100 students. We also received over 100 surveys about school climate. And all of that is to support learning more about what it is that we need to do, what it is that we can do moving forward. Students will also be given, students who did not come to the forums will also be given an opportunity to fill out an online survey. So we'll be able to get information also from the people maybe who are more shy or didn't feel confident or comfortable coming and speaking with us. I also want to say that we have 5 upcoming dates in order to listen to more people. So we have opportunities for parents. We have 2 meetings coming up to listen to parents, and I really want to encourage any of you that is a parent of an East Hampton High School student to come to that. Handouts. Julianne has handouts. She's going to share them. They have information about the dates. We also have 2 more forums coming up for students, and they're both going to be after school, so students don't have to worry about missing out on any of their academics. And then we'll be conducting another facilitated forum, a space for us to really listen to faculty and staff on Monday, May 1st. After we do this listening, what we'll do is my team will gather together and we'll look at the themes of what comes out of that. And we will present the themes to a group of stakeholders. So this group of stakeholders will be administrators, students, parents, teachers, and together we want to be able to come up with a plan for moving forward. That will inform this 3-year plan that we will then develop. By the end of May, we'll be able to, I skipped over the part where by the end of May, we will have a report of all of those themes and the survey results available that we would like to be able to share. You can communicate with me. Please come to one of the forums if you're available, or my email address is on the handout that is about ready to go around to people. And I appreciate any suggestions, questions, or concerns. Anything else?
Any questions from the committee?
Sounds good.
I'll just say that we've met with Dr. DeYoung several times already and have found the meetings to be very helpful. I believe that our students who attended have also found them very helpful. So again, I would encourage any parents who are available on those dates to join Dr. Young for these focus groups. And if you can't join her, then please communicate with her because we want to hear everybody's voices.
Can we ask questions, Dr. Young?
Not at this, no, not at this time, no.
But we can email her.
You can email me.
Thank you.
So for those that are at home and don't have the handout, what are the dates exactly? So
I'm glad I wrote them down.
thank you.
The 2 after-school forums for students, Thursday, April 27th from 2:05 to 3:05, and then Tuesday, May 2nd, again from 2:05 to 3:05. For parents and guardians of East Hampton High School students, Friday, May 28th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Date night?
April 28th.
April. Friday, April 28th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. And then Thursday, May 4th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. again. These are all going to be at East Hampton High School. And then forum for East Hampton High School faculty and staff will be Monday, May 1st, 2:15 to 3:15.
Parent dates are also on the website.
Parent dates are also on the website.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much. Next, what I'd like to do is read a letter to you from the school committee that we intend to submit through email tomorrow to all of the addresses on our email distribution list for the superintendent updates as basically an update from the school committee on the situation. So what I'd like to do now is read this to you on behalf of the school committee for your information. Dear East Hampton families and community members, we, the East Hampton School Committee, have heard the concerns expressed by students and community members following the incidents of March 29th and March 30th of this year, and we are continuing to explore the issues that have subsequently come to light. We have confidence in our superintendent and the investigative team, which includes school committee members, to complete a thorough review of all of the concerns shared by community members. Once the investigation is complete, a detailed report will be provided to the entire school committee. Once the committee has the report, all of the factual information will be shared with the community. We are committed to ensuring the well-being and safety of all East Hampton students and families, and are invested in creating the most effective learning environment possible for our students and staff. As a committee, we share a firm belief that schools should educate and nurture young people. When young people make mistakes, schools should help them make the amends necessary for learning and growth. It is important for everyone to understand that the school department does not have the authority to press criminal charges. Those matters are determined by the police department and the district attorney. In addition to our concerns for our students, we also care deeply for our faculty, administrators, and staff. We pride ourselves on attracting and retaining outstanding educators, and we believe it is important to be respectful of our educators' professional judgments and to maintain a working environment that affords employees with due process. We have also been listening carefully to community members' commitment to increasing tolerance and acceptance in our schools. As a district, we reject hate and violence and promote tolerance, diversity, respect, and understanding. The skilled and compassionate teachers and staff who work with our children every day have long been committed to the education, well-being, and civil rights of all students. As a committee, we support the proposed measures to strengthen curricula, programming, and institutional resources that promote justice, and we will continue to seek ways to enhance and broaden these efforts. As citizens currently serving as school committee members, we believe that the opportunity for difficult but productive community discourse is one of the great values of public education. That is, because it is a public institution that belongs to all of us, we, the people of East Hampton, are afforded a voice and a forum for shaping the future of East Hampton Public Schools. We encourage your respectful participation. If you have a concern, please promptly inform a teacher or a building principal. If your concern is not met to satisfaction, please inform the superintendent. If you have further concerns, contact the school committee. When a matter is properly brought before us, the committee will endeavor to establish the underlying facts and review them in light of district policies and the laws of the Commonwealth to ensure that the mission of our schools is accomplished in a manner respectful of the due process rights of all members of the community. We remain ever proud of the East Hampton Public School District, and we look forward to the ongoing project of improving our schools for all our students and families. Respectfully, the members of the East Hampton School Committee. Thank you. I'd also like to read to you a list of what we're currently doing to address the concerns that have been shared with us. We are continuing to work with Dr. Sapphire DeYoung and her team of consultants from the Collaborative for Educational Services to guide us going forward in gathering data and achieving recommendations for the work EHS needs to do. This will inform the 3-year comprehensive and systemic plan that will address inclusivity and equity at EHS and throughout the district. We plan to create an advisory committee at East Hampton High School for parents, teachers, and administrators to ensure that voices continue to be heard and issues continue to be brought to light. We plan to have Dr. DeYoung guide us in finding ways for our students to be part of a dialogue where voices are heard in safe and respectful ways. We plan to provide training for teachers and staff members in how to address and respond to issues of bias and prejudice, including, but not limited to, racism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, homophobia, transphobia, and sexism. We plan to support the work of the Diversity Club with Mr. Alex Alvarez, who's been the advisor for a diversity club at Amherst High School before being hired last June as a math teacher here at EHS. We plan to support the work of the GSA Club with Ms. Christine Zavaro and the school counseling intern, Ms. Sarah Miller, as advisors by engaging in the Safe Schools program, an initiative supported by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and the Massachusetts Commission on LGBTQ Youth. We plan to continue to collect data to track our progress in helping all students and families feel safe and welcome in our district. We plan to continue to work toward building a more inclusive curriculum and school climate for all students in our schools. We plan to develop a plan for remaining transparent in communicating our progress to the larger community as well. And that's a summary of what is happening at this point in time. At this time, I would like to ask the committee members if they have anything that they would like to add to what has just been presented.
Yes, I would add a couple things. For the purposes of the general public who might not be aware of some of the greater context, and it sounds like some people have already alluded to this, but I think it's important to acknowledge again that what we are experiencing here in East Hampton is not unique to our district, unfortunately, and it's something that as a committee we've been talking about prior to really these issues coming to light in the past month or so. We've seen reports from the Southern Poverty Law Center that there has been a significant uptick in hate crimes and hate speech corresponding with the election cycle of 2016. And we've been aware of, and we saw incidences out in our community, and we had concern that they would also find that kind of emboldened hate speech would find its way into our school buildings. And so I say that as a point of contextualization, not in any way to diminish our responsibility or to diminish the significance of what's occurring in our district, but because I think it is important to historicize, and also I think it says something really excellent about our students and about our district, that our students recognized this problem and they brought it, they rose up and made their voices heard. And so I take that as just a really heartening and affirming sign about not only about our student body, but also about our district in general. I think I also want to sort of provide that contextualizing background because I don't want to lose sight of the fact that East Hampton is a wonderful school district, and we have fantastic teachers who are skilled and smart and compassionate and dedicated, and they're working so hard, and we have a remarkable student body. And so I think it's important that we, exactly as our community here is asking us to do, to face these challenges head on, to not shirk from these realities, but also to keep in place that bigger picture of keeping that balanced perspective. I also wanted to just thank Nancy. I know she's been working countless hours to really meet with concerned parents and to address these concerns one by one. I know that she cares a lot about the district, and I thank you for all the work that you've been doing. I think this action list sounds really excellent. The one thing that I would like to see added, or at least I would like to discuss with the committee the potential for adding this to the list, is visiting the relationship between the school district and the police force. I think there is a lot of concern in the community about what the district expects for service from the police, and whether we have a healthy collaboration between our schools and our police force. That's something that I would like to talk about with the committee and to give the community an opportunity to explore more closely. That's where I'll have.
I agree with that. I agree with everything you said, but I also would like to see us have a little bit more of a discussion about that, and we don't necessarily have to do that like right at this moment, but that is something I've been noticing as this has been going on.
And I would just like the community to know that the school committee has been working along with Nancy to and members of the community to really find out what's on everybody's mind, to investigate all the issues, but also really to generate conversations about proactive healing programs. The list that we have here is just the beginning. Dr. DeYoung talked about, we're in the gathering of information first phase of this process, and I just want the community to know that we're listening, we're thinking, we're coming up with ideas, and we're sharing them so that we can continue a process of really bringing everybody together in healing.
We're also grateful for all the passionate parents we have. Passion brings a lot to our district, and I know that we've always had passionate parents, but it's nice to feel like we have such a passionate community and passionate parents, and supportive.
I'd like to add, and I say this only because I think I will struggle to organize the thoughts. It has been hard to keep up with the pace of events, but I want to remind people that starting last fall, we set as a goal for ourselves as a committee, though we may all have political points of view, to realize that in that community that we listen to, it is sincerely everyone. That includes people with whom we might disagree vigorously, both in terms of policy and in terms of the manner of expression of ideas. But one of the very difficult aspects of this, and I'm sure you're aware that there are many, is finding a way to be respectful of students' rights and recognizing how important it is for us to respond educationally whenever and wherever we can to difficult matters that come before a teacher, a building administrator, or the school committee. It is easy to reduce things into a two-sided sort of rubric about how the conversation or how the resolution should come out, that it's going to be one side is going to win and the other side is going to lose, or vice versa. And so often, and I say this as a teacher myself, I think students and teachers face situations in schools where we must entertain nuance and very, very difficult gradations of student conduct and professional educators' judgments that are hard to reduce to easy sound bites. And I say this with, I hope, the proper amount of respect, but we know that the members of the media that are here, by the nature of the beast, try to consolidate things down to as small as possible to get to the essence of it. And I think that's really hard. People have referred to an incident this week that I think could easily be seen quickly as an either-or, when I think as soon as you start to look into the roles and responsibilities of a school district to all of the students that attend it, it doesn't come out that way. There's not an either-or in that situation, or in any of these situations. It requires that we be really respectful. And things like freedom of speech and hate speech are hard at times to parse, to know where those lines are to be drawn. I challenge anybody, because I'm always convinced that the most dangerous thing is to be absolutely certain that you're right, and that having a little bit of humility, and I'm the person here who's the most guilty of that, but that be willing to entertain the possibility that the way you see it and the absolute certainty that you have about how the situation should be resolved may well be true, but it may well be that there's a better way that is different than that. We've witnessed in the conversations that we've had with people, young people, coming to the podium, and the importance of honoring every voice that comes up, whether we agree with them expressed or not. And even if we disagree, finding a civil way to communicate that disagreement so that we encourage those voices to stay in the light. Because if you say to voices that you disagree with that they are not welcome in the public square, the voices don't go away. They find another place to have those conversations. And everyone suffers by not having the opportunity to reconsider their own view in the light of ideas that we agree with, and those that we share some and disagree with some, and those that we disagree with. So I think that everyone here is working hard to try to model that, and to be an exemplar for our students of how we conduct ourselves. But I'll end where I start. There is where I started. There's, along with that group of students who was in Washington, D.C., and I know of East Hampton High School students who've had that opportunity, and I look forward to more opportunities for them in the future, to be down in Washington, D.C., where I saw students from 54 schools from across the country making presentations and answering questions from state Supreme Court justices about precisely how do you distinguish hate speech from permissible speech, and where does expression of an idea become an action that must be addressed like a physical action would be. And it was a real struggle, and these kids worked really hard to try to figure it out. And what came through to me more than anything else was not the clarity of the answer, but the importance of a dedicated and respectful effort to pursue the answer in a way that includes as many ideas in the public debate as possible. So I look forward to continuing to try, with my colleagues who are working very hard, to play a small role in that. But I want to urge everyone, as we talk about East Hampton High School concerns, and as Marissa just alluded to, these are not just local, but much larger concerns, that we keep that in mind, to be comfortable with uncertainty as we work very hard to get to the best possible resolution for all of our students, or as many of our students as possible in the district. Thank you.
I would just like to add that this all started at the walkout, where the students wanted to be listened to. And I think it's ironic that that's where we're at. We're talking about phase one. So I think it's obvious to everybody here that we have been listening, we will continue to listen, and we will always listen. Superintendent Follansbee and myself, the very first morning of the walkout, made sure that we walked out immediately when the students appeared here, and just explaining to them that we're always available. And I cannot tell you how many hours our superintendent, our administrators, our teachers, our school committee members, how many hours and days that they put into these discussions with parents above and beyond. And we are always listening. My administration, along with Nancy's, has always stood for exactly what it should: respect and diversity. Everybody deserves respect at every level. And I just think it's funny that we're just going right back to the basics, which is listening. But I think we've proven that we have been listening all along, and we'll continue to listen and keep hearing. And
Thank you very much. Any other committee members have any other comments they'd like to make?
I want to just finally, I just want to go back, the mayor was just saying, going back to the beginning, I also just want to thank the students who did walk out and kind of push this conversation to happen in a more public way. Because, like we were saying, it had been happening, obviously, in the school committee. It had been happening in school communities, outside of the school community. they really pushed it forward and kind of brought us all together, and that is a very brave thing to do. And I really appreciate that from them. So thank you.
And I think sometimes when we're dealing with situations like this where there is so much tension and it can almost feel like a crisis, but in fact I think that this room is like an indication of a really healthy democracy and a really healthy community. And it's hard, but I really have all the faith in the world that on the other side of this we're going to be a stronger community and a stronger school district.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Well said.
And even at the beginning, our first concerns were the safety of the students, getting them back to class, so that we told them we would be right up there immediately to discuss anything and listen to anything that they wanted to hear. Could I have a copy of that schedule, please? I don't think it's
And I
in
just
there.
wanted to say that I am pleased that we are working with the collaborative and Dr. DeYoung, because I remember in the beginning of the year, we talked about, you know, each of us talked about things that we wanted to see, and I said that, you know, I'd love to see a social justice program in our schools. And I'm, you know, as a parent of a elementary school child, I'm happy that it will be a systemic wide curricula for our district. So thank you for that. And yeah, I welcome that.
Any other comments? Okay, Superintendent Fonsby, do you have some comments to share?
I do, and I believe I'm going to echo so much of what's already been said here this evening, but I think it's important to say it again. We are fortunate here in East Hampton to have really good schools, excellent faculty, staff and administrators, engaged families, and community members, and dedicated school committee members as well. I know this because I've been in this district for 28 years, and I have loved every one of those years. Know that we are all trying our very best to do our very best, but this is hard work and we can't do it alone. Through some really terrible events that have occurred recently, we've learned some very important things. And there's been a divisiveness that has taken its toll on both sides of the divide in these last weeks. I want to thank Natalie Poirier and Noreen Nardi for the time they have given to meet with me on numerous occasions for the purpose of sharing information. I believe, as Natalie would say, that we have begun to build bridges. I know we have a lot of hard work to do, but am confident now that we can all work together to make the positive changes we all want to see, and I look forward to the work I will do with our school committee, our faculty and staff, administrative team, students, families, and community members. What we are experiencing, as people have said earlier this evening, here in East Hampton is not unlike districts across the state of Massachusetts and communities across the country are experiencing. We can consider this a problem, or we can consider it an amazing learning opportunity. And I choose to consider it an amazing learning opportunity for all of us, and we will all be better for this opportunity. Thank you to all of you who have given your support in this hard work that we are engaged in. Thank you.
Okay, I'd also like to ask Principal Wilson if you have any comments you'd like to make. Sure.
Good evening. Thank you, Ms. Luznia and school committee people for the opportunity to speak to the school committee this evening. Reflecting on the tumultuous past few weeks at EHS, I am struck by a couple of things. First, how encouraging it is to witness the energy and the spirit and the determination of EHS students in working to ensure a safe and inclusive environment at the high school. Second, how committed the faculty and staff are to EHS students, how deeply they care and work to build connections with students, to teach not just the content, but to teach and educate, keeping the whole child in mind. Third, how the East Hampton community is working to be part of improving our schools, which will fortify our foundation and hopefully provide a deeper understanding for all so we can strengthen the bridge between home and school. Fourth, how committed our administration is to improving EHS and joining together with all stakeholders to do the hard work to make improvements in the high school. I'm encouraged and proud to work with Kevin Burke as we roll up our sleeves and facilitate the plans for a safe and inclusive environment at EHS. Lastly, I realize that people may be upset and frustrated in the past few weeks. And some of that anger, may have been directed at me. I feel that and the pain, and I understand it. And I'm so sorry for our community for going through this. I care deeply about students at EHS and the East Hampton community. This is a difficult time we're going through, but together, I trust the care and concern that we all have for our East Hampton. I taught for 15 years at Whitebrook as a 7th and 8th grade language arts and social studies teacher. Many of the current students are at EHS are people that I had the pleasure and privilege of teaching. I formed relationships with them and with many families in the community. My hope is that we can build on those relationships or the new ones that we've fostered together as your assistant principal. And I pledge to you that I will work each day to make EHS a safe, enjoyable school for all to learn and grow. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak once again. I want to acknowledge to everyone that clearly from my assistant principal up here speaking, this is very upsetting to all of us. Questioning the values of not just the high school or what we face, but my values as a person and what I stand for. And I wanted to take an opportunity, because I didn't have an opportunity last time, to kind of give you some personal experiences and let you know who I am as a person and what I do stand for, and a little bit of my history. I want to put forward that these are my personal experiences. I'm not trying to put myself in the shoes of any of the parents, any of the community members, or any of the students and say that I'm in their shoes. But these are my shoes, and I want the community to know. I grew up in a town in western Massachusetts, and I grew up in a family, and I was raised as Orthodox Jew. And I used to walk on Saturday. I was observant for Shabbos, and I used to walk on Saturday down to my shul, my temple, and I wore a kippah, and I walked down with my family. And as we walked back and forth, on occasion, people would drive by and shout anti-Semitic remarks to us, comment on that we wore beanies on our head. This is stuff that I remember from when I was a little kid. That stuck with me. When I was older, I spent some time in the Midwest. I went to school in Colorado, spent some time in Minnesota. I remember walking into a school one time, and it was, I'm not going to say where the school was, but it was a school in the Midwest. When I walked in, right there, right when you walk through, were anti-Semitic graffiti. And I saw that, and what hit me even more was the fact that no one had even tried to take it off the wall. It was just sitting there in whatever marker the person had done. And once again, this is from 20 some odd years ago, and I still remember it, and I still remember the feeling I had when I walked into that school, and it wasn't welcoming to me. I come from immigrants. My grandmother lived in Poland and left back in the early 1900s. She was there back when the Russian Tsar was there. She lived in a ghetto. She escaped with her family, my relatives, in the middle of the night to get out of that oppression, and came in through Ellis Island. These are the stories that I heard from her experiences as I was growing up when I was younger. I also have family members that are from Russia, and they were Russian partisans, part of the resistance force during the World War II that fought oppression. Once again, these are stories that I heard from my family members growing up. These are things that shaped me. I also have a very good friend, one of my best friends, who came over from Russia at the age of 7. His parents were refuseniks in Russia, meaning that they wanted to leave Russia and were being denied by the Russian government. They were Russian Jews. In fact, his mom published her memoirs called Against the Kremlin Wall, which is an interesting book to read. But this is my best friend, and I've shared many nights talking to him about oppression that him and his family felt. His brother almost died actually trying to walk into a shul one day and was almost beaten to death. These are stories that I've shared with my friends and my families, and these are my personal experiences. And I want the community members to know that I have experienced these things in my life, but I also want to put out that these are my experiences. And I can't put myself in the shoes of the students that walk into our building. I can't put myself into the feelings that some of our community members. But I wanted to share something personal when I stood up here tonight. I want to put out there that I'm deeply upset and I'm deeply sorry that there are students walking into our high school that feel unsafe. That is not the type of school that I want to run. That is not the type of school that I want to be a part of. And as Ms. Wilson put out there, I am too committed to making the changes necessary to make sure that we do have a school that all our students can walk into and feel safe. I've been in this district for over 10 years. I was a teacher in White Brook. I came up here. I too had many students that were in the school. I still have students that I taught in this school. I have basically dedicated my career to this community and to this public school district because I really believe what this community stands for. I grew up in Western Mass. I've seen this community grow. I've seen what this community has become. And I think it is a great place to be. And it is a great place to teach. It is a great place to be an administrator. And I do want to work with everyone. I want to work with the school committee. I want to work with the parents. I want to work with the students. I want to work with my staff to ensure that we continue to be a great place to learn and grow. I think I've said this before, but I truly do love working here. Certain students I've worked with throughout, I've met with them outside of school after they've graduated and shown their appreciation for what I've done for them throughout their education. And to me, that's one of the biggest rewards of being an educator. Comes down to one of the reasons why I wanted to be an educator, which was not my very first choice as a career, but what I found about myself was I am a lifelong learner. I love to learn. I continue to learn. And I take any opportunity that is presented to continue to learn and grow. I know that my assistant principal, Ms. Wilson, shares this with me. And we're embracing this opportunity as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to become stronger administrators, and to provide what our students need, what our community needs, with the guidance of our superintendent and the school committee. I really look forward to working with Sapphire. I think she's going to do a great job in helping us create a meaningful dialogue with our students. I want to end with the fact that the goal here is that all students, and I want to reiterate that all students' voices are heard, respected, and that our students feel safe. And that is our goal for all our students. And I want to end, and I thank the school committee for letting me speak tonight, but I want to thank our community members too. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for caring about this community. And I think it's important, and like I said, one of the reasons why I love this community is because it is full of caring people. And if we work together, I think we will overcome this, and we will be stronger for it, as has been said by some of our school committee members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to our matters for action. Warrants and payroll.
Warrants and payroll. I move to approve the school payroll dated 27 April 2017 in the amount of $479,667.58.
Second. There's a motion, it's been seconded to approve the school payroll dated April 27th, 2017 in the amount of $479,667.58. All those in favor? Motion passes.
I move to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated April 27th, 2017 in the amount of $376,441.93.
Second.
There's a motion, it's been seconded to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated April 27th, 2017 in the amount of $376,441.93. All those in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you. And we will need additional signatures there. Motion to approve the minutes of the April 5th, 2017 meeting of the East Hampton School Committee.
Second.
There's a motion, it's been seconded to approve the April 5th, 2017 regular session minutes of the school committee meeting. All those in favor? And one abstention.
Motion to approve the minutes of the April 11th school committee meeting with holding executive session until all matters are resolved.
Second.
There's been a motion to approve the April 11th regular session meeting minutes. It's been seconded. All those in favor? And one abstention. Okay.
I think we have, there was one other item that came in, and I apologize, I moved it. We had a school choice request. Hang on, I got it. Here we go. I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for the following school choice openings for the school year in 2017-2018. In kindergarten, 8 openings. In grade 1, 1 opening. In grade 2, 2 openings. In grade 3, 1 opening. In grade 4, 2. In grade 6, 3. In grade 7, 5. In grade 8, 5. In grade 9, 6. In grade 10, 3. In grade 11, 2. And in grade 12, 3.
Second.
Yes, sorry.
We have a motion to approve, and it's been seconded, the school choice openings for the school year 2017-18 as listed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And we have a out-of-district field trip request that I'd like to make a motion to approve the request by Ms. Breyer and Ms. Connolly and their colleagues to take students to the Roger Williams Zoo in Providence, Rhode Island on the 1st of June, 2017.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded to approve the out-of-state field trip request for White Brook Middle School to take a trip on June 1st to the Roger Williams Zoo in Providence, Rhode Island. All those in favor? Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn, it's been seconded. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.